Trash bags versus paint bucket, which grows more tomatoes. I did something my neighbor called genuinely stupid. I grew tomatoes in a trash bag, not a grow bag, not a fabric pot, a trash bag. The kind you use for kitchen garbage, and I planted it right next to a proper 5-gallon paint bucket, the kind every beginner is told to use. My neighbor laughed, my wife looked concerned, and honestly, part of me thought they were right. But 6 weeks later, I was the one having the last laugh. But here's where this all began. You know that feeling when you bite into a sun-warmed tomato still glistening with juice? The flesh splits like a ripe peach and the flavor hits you so hard you just stop and savor it. That's the tomato I'm holding right now, split wide open on this cutting board. And it came from one of those 2 plants. But I'm not going to tell you which one yet, because the answer is going to bother you a little, and it should. Here's what I need you to understand before I show you anything else. The average container gardener spends between $40 and $80 every single season on seeds, soil, fertilizer, and stakes. They water consistently, they follow the sunlight rules, they do everything right. And they still walk away from harvest with 25 to 30% less yield than their setup should be producing. Not because of pests, not because of disease, not because of bad soil or the wrong variety, because of the container. The container is the one variable almost nobody examines. It's invisible when it's failing you. It looks exactly like it's working right up until harvest, when the numbers just don't add up and you tell yourself maybe next season. The gardening industry sells you fertilizers for yield problems that are actually container problems. It sells you pest solutions for stress symptoms caused by root problems. It sells you expensive grow bags and fabric pots. The same ones I'm about to show you can be replaced with something sitting in your kitchen right now. Over 10 seasons of container gardening, a 25% yield gap compounds. That's 10 harvests running at 3/4 capacity. That's real food, real money. From a problem with a solution so simple it feels almost offensive once you see it. That's what this experiment was actually about. Not proving a trash bag works. Proving that the container choice is the most underexamined variable in everything beginners are taught. And if that's true, then the cheapest possible test of that idea was this: a trash bag. Because if it works, anyone can do it. 6 weeks ago, I set up what looks like the most unfair experiment in gardening. 2 identical seedlings, same variety, same soil mix, same water schedule, same amount of sun. The only difference? One went into a 5-gallon paint bucket, drilled with drainage holes, sitting on the ground, exactly how every beginner sets theirs up. The other went into a trash bag, lined with newspaper so it wouldn't tear, stuffed with soil, propped inside a cardboard box for structure. I want you to picture that for a second. A trash bag sitting in a cardboard box growing tomatoes. This should not work. Everything about it feels wrong, flimsy, temporary. Like something you'd set up as a joke and pull out before anyone sees it. And yet... Now, here's the part that kept me up at night. At week 2, both plants looked identical, same height, same leaf color. I started to think I'd wasted 6 weeks of my garden space on a stupid experiment. Week 3, still nothing dramatic. The trash bag was actually wilting slightly in the afternoon. I thought it was over. By week 4, I'd almost pulled the trash bag plant, replanted it in a proper container, nearly ruined the entire experiment. But I left it. At week 6, I flew my drone over the garden, and I didn't even need the footage. I could see it immediately. The trash bag plant was unrecognizable compared to week 2. Thick main stem, deep, almost aggressive green on the leaves, and flower clusters, and twice as many as the paint bucket plant. Same soil, same water, same sun. The only thing that changed was the container. And now I'm going to show you exactly why. Not just what happened, but the 5 specific things that made it happen, because each one builds on the last. And if you understand all 5, you'll never look at a container garden the same way again. A plastic bucket isn't neutral, it's actively working against your plant. In direct sun, the dark or opaque walls of a rigid container absorb heat and transfer it straight into the root zone. Tomato roots in superheated soil stop functioning efficiently right when the plant needs them most, when it's setting fruit. It's not dramatic. The plant doesn't die, it just quietly underperforms. Less fruit, smaller size, earlier drop. Research from Washington State University found that tomatoes in rigid plastic containers showed measurably reduced root efficiency and lower total yields compared to fabric containers. In some trials, the gap hit nearly 30%. Here's the practical implication. If your bucket sits in direct afternoon sun, your roots are cooking during the exact growth window that determines your harvest size. That's the first problem the trash bag solves. Its thin walls and breathable structure don't trap or transfer heat the same way rigid plastic does. The container isn't just a vessel, it's a thermal environment. A trash bag alone tears when soil gets heavy and wet. So before any soil goes in line it, 3 to 4 sheets of newspaper pressed firmly against the interior walls, overlapping at the seams, not loose, are pressed flat against the plastic on every side. Here's why this matters beyond just preventing tears. The newspaper layer creates a secondary barrier between the soil and the bag wall. It slows surface moisture loss slightly while still allowing the fabric breathability that makes the system work. It also gives the roots a textured surface to press against, which matters for the next element. Practical instruction: line before you fill. Press every seam flat. Overlap at the bottom corners where the weight concentrates. The bag goes inside a cardboard box, not because it looks better, because structure changes how the root system develops. A bag without support sags and spreads as it fills with wet soil. When it sags, the root zone flattens and loses depth. Roots that should be growing downward into a stable thermal core end up spreading laterally in a shallow pancake, exactly the root geometry you're trying to avoid. The cardboard box holds the bag upright, maintains a consistent cylindrical shape, and gives the root system the vertical depth it needs to build a proper structure. It also provides a layer of insulation between the bag and whatever surface it's sitting on, protecting the base of the root zone from heat transfer through concrete or pavement. Practical instruction: find a box that holds the bag upright without squeezing it. The bag should sit naturally inside the box with 2 to 3 inches of clearance at the top. Cut drainage slits in the box bottom to match your bag drainage holes. This is the part I had to look up 3 times before I believed it. Why would a trash bag or any fabric container produce a better root system than a solid bucket? Because of something called air pruning. When roots grow outward inside a fabric container, they eventually hit the edge, and instead of circling the way they do in a bucket, they hit air. Air kills the root tip. Not the whole root, just the tip. That sounds bad. It isn't. When that tip dies, the plant responds by sending out 2 new branches from just behind the dead tip, then those branches again and again. The result is a dense, fibrous, explosively efficient root system that fills the entire container and absorbs water and nutrients far faster than a conventional root structure. In the rigid bucket, roots hit the wall, find no air, and spiral, round and round. They don't branch. They just circle until the plant becomes root-bound and begins slowly suffocating itself, from the inside out, invisibly, while the plant above ground looks completely fine. The trash bag isn't just holding soil, it's running a training program for the roots. This is the core mechanism behind the yield gap. The container shape determines the root shape. The root shape determines everything else. The one objection that always comes up: fabric dries out too fast. I'd be watering every single day. Fair concern, so I tested it. Moisture meter, both containers. Same depth, same soil, after 3 days with 0 rain. The paint bucket, bone dry at the bottom. The trash bag, still holding steady in the ideal moisture range. Fabric does lose surface moisture faster, but it also breathes, which means oxygen reaches the roots constantly and root rot stays away. The surface dries, the root zone holds. That's the opposite of what most people expect. And if you're still worried about frequency, one fix: bury a plastic soda bottle with small holes drilled along the sides next to your plant. Fill it once a week. It releases moisture slowly and deeply, straight into the root zone where it's needed. No guesswork, no daily trips to the hose, no surface evaporation. Practical instruction: use a 1.5-liter bottle, drill 8 to 10 holes along the lower 2/3 of the body, bury it at a slight angle so the neck stays accessible, fill weekly. That's the complete system. 5 elements, 1 afternoon of setup, and then the container works with your plant instead of quietly against it. Now look at what happened. On the trash bag, plant climbed the trellis faster. Flowers set fruit earlier. Tomatoes coming in waves, deep red, heavy, splitting slightly at the stem from sheer ripeness. The paint bucket plant, still catching up. And that tomato on my cutting board at the start of this video was from the trash bag. So here's what I need you to do. Before your next planting, before you grab whatever container is sitting in your garage, run through all 5. Thermal environment, liner, structure, root training, moisture system. Because the container isn't just a pot, it's the foundation of everything your plant is trying to become. Now, one question before you go. Have you ever had a container tomato season that just didn't deliver? Good soil, consistent water, right variety, and the harvest was still disappointing? Drop it in the comments right now. What season, what container, what you expected versus what you got. Because I'm building the next experiment around exactly that question, and I want to know if what I'm seeing in this garden is what you've been living through in yours. I read every single one. And if you think the trash bag result was surprising, next week I ran the exact same test with peppers, 2 containers, same conditions. The winner was not the trash bag. I didn't see it coming. And you won't either. If you want to see that result the day it goes up, subscribe, because it's already filmed.